Hey, I'm Nate Savage and welcome to video 2 of the Blues Guitar Quick Start series. In this lesson, we're going to cover something that's really foundational to the blues, and that's the standard 12-bar blues progression. We're going to keep things really simple. We're only going to be using power chords so you can really focus on getting this progression down and kind of ingrained in your brain. The 12-bar blues progression is really important because it's kind of the starting point as far as for when musicians get together. If you know the standard 12-bar blues progression, you can come together to a blues jam or whatever, and you're going to have a starting point. Everybody's going to know that progression, and if you want to change things up a little bit from there, it's going to be really easy if you have the 12-bar blues progression down really well. Let's talk about keys as far as the blues goes. Now, often if you see a piece of music that's a blues tune or something, there won't be a key signature written on it. It'll just say this song is in the key of E blues or this song is in the key of A blues. That's because the blues is kind of a hybrid tonality that's somewhere in between major and minor. With that in mind, we're going to be in the key of E blues throughout this entire series. Now, the standard 12-bar blues progression has 3 chords in it: the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. In the key of E blues, the 1, 4, and the 5 chord are: the 1 chord is going to be E, the 4 chord is going to be an A, and the 5 chord is going to be a B. Let's talk about blues rhythm a little bit. Now, all of the jam tracks that we're going to be playing throughout the series are in 4/4 time. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. I'll tell you right here. 4/4 time is when you have your pulse going, and you have 4 pulses per measure. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, each measure is going to be made of 4 counts. A lot of blues songs are in 4/4 time, and as a matter of fact, all the jam tracks that we're going to be using in this series are in 4/4 time. And let me just tell you that the standard 12-bar blues progression is just a set progression of chords throughout 12 bars or 12 measures of music. Blues music in general usually has a shuffle feel to it, and this is really important for you to get down, to get the feel of the blues right. So if you're in 4/4 time, if you have 8th notes in 4/4 time, they're usually straight, like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Now, those 8th notes right there were evenly spaced over each beat. A shuffle or swing feel is going to have a long note and then a short note, so it sounds more like this. Da, 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 da. Let me show you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So you see how we had a long one and then a short one, followed by long, short, long, short, long, short, long. It gives you kind of a skipping or rolling feel. Now, a more technical way to think about a swing fill is if you have 3 triplets per each beat. So if you have 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. What you would do to achieve a swing fill from a more technical aspect, if you want to think about it like this, is take the middle triplet out of each beat. So instead of having 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, you have . Don't worry too much about the technicalities of this right now. I'm sure you've heard this before in lots of blues songs. Just worry about getting that triplet feel down. So let's get into the standard 12-bar blues progression. Like I said earlier, all it is a set progression of chords throughout 12 bars of music, and it's really important that you memorize this forwards and backwards and just have it down cold. Let me just talk you through this progression. First of all, you're going to have 4 measures or 4 bars of the 1 chord. In this case, it's an E for us since we're in the key of E blues. So 4 measures of the E chord. Next, you're going to have 2 measures of the 4 chord. In this case, it's an A chord. From there, you're going to go back to the 1 chord for 2 measures. From there, you go to the 5 chord for 1 measure, which is a B in this case. Then you have 1 measure of the 4 chord, an A, 1 measure of the 1 chord, and then 1 measure of the 5 chord again. So again, quickly, you have 4 measures of the 1 chord, 2 measures of the 4 chord, 2 measures of the 1 chord, 1 measure of the 5 chord, 1 measure of the 4 chord, 1 measure of the 1, and then 1 measure of the 5. So that probably doesn't mean much to you without having it in context and playing through it, but you're going to need to memorize this. So what we're going to do is apply that chord progression to some power chords. Let me just show you the power chords we're going to be using. We're going to be using an E power chord for our 1 chord, and that my index finger is just going to be on the 2nd fret of the A string right there. You're going to strum the 6th and 5th strings. For the 4 chord, I'm going to use A power chord, same kind of shape, but we're going to play just the 5th and 4th strings. First finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the 4th string there. For the 5 chord, we're going to use a B power chord, index finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string. Just those 2 notes right there. So like I said, we're going to start out with 4 measures of the 1 chord. So get your E power chord on there, and you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. From there, we have 2 measures of the 4 chord, so we need to get our A power chord on there and play that for 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. We go back to the 1 chord for 2 more measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the 5 chord for 1 measure, so we got to have our B power chord on there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down to the 4 chord for 1 measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the 1 chord for 1 more measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last measure, the 12th measure of the 12-bar blues, is a 5 chord again, a B chord in this case. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So walk yourself through this, try to memorize this chord progression, and make sure for your E power chord, you're just hitting the 6th and 5th strings. And then for your A and B power chords, you're just hitting the 5th and 4th strings. And you can play whole notes like I was doing, or you can switch to 8th notes with that shuffle rhythm that we were talking about like this. And if you want to do that, you may have to go back and work on your aim just to be able to hit just the 6th and 5th strings. But that's fine if you need to take some time to do that. And when you're playing your A and B power chords, let me tell you, I often just come back here and mute the low E string with the palm of my hand just to make sure it doesn't ring out if I accidentally hit it. And if you do the whole thing with 8th notes, with swung 8th notes, this is what the 12-bar blues progression sounds like with these power chords. So go through this as much as you need to get really familiar with the standard 12-bar blues progression. Once you're pretty comfortable with it, pull up one of the jam tracks for this lesson. I have 2 versions of this one for you. One's at 70 beats per minute and one's at 100 beats per minute. So you can select the one that best matches your skill level. And for now, you can keep the strumming simple if you want to. You can use all whole notes, or you can use the swung 8th notes like I did in the example. Don't underestimate the importance of the standard 12-bar blues progression. It's literally the foundation for everything else we're going to be covering here in this series, so it's really important to get down really well. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about dominant 7th chords. We're going to learn some shapes for your dominant 7th chords, and we're going to apply them to the standard 12-bar blues progression. If you have any questions, you can leave them here in the comments, and I'll get back to you there, or email me, nate@guitarsystem.com. See you in the next lesson.